Let's talk about a war. Not just any war. The shortest war in recorded history. So brief, if you blinked, you'd probably miss it. It's called the Anglo-Zanzibar War, and it lasted 38 minutes. Yep, that's it. 38 minutes. You could microwave a few Hot Pockets in that time. But in 1896, two nations managed to squeeze in a full-on war. Let's set the scene. This is the British Empire at the end of the 19th century. The sun never set on it, mostly because it had conquered half of the planet. It was massive, it was powerful, and frankly, it was always in the mood for expansion. Zanzibar, a small island off the coast of East Africa, was technically independent, but not really. The British had interests there. The kind of interests that meant they pretty much controlled things without saying it out loud. The Sultan at the time, Said Hamid bin Thuwani, was friendly with the British. He nodded when they talked. He did what they asked. He was, to put it gently, cooperative. But then, on August 25th, 1896, Hamad suddenly died. Probably poisoned. Suspicious? Definitely. But let's keep going. The very same day, his cousin, Said Khalid bin Bargash, seized the throne. Just marched into the palace and said, "I'm in charge now." Now, under a previous agreement, Zanzibar wasn't supposed to install a new sultan without British approval. Khalid knew this. The British knew this. Everyone knew this. So when the British told Khalid to step down, he said no. He also barricaded himself inside the palace, gathered about 2,800 troops, brought out a few artillery pieces, and parked a royal yacht in the harbor. Spoiler, this would not be enough. Meanwhile, the British had 3 warships sitting in a nearby harbor. Actual, honest-to-goodness warships. The HMS St. George, the HMS Philomel, and the HMS Raccoon. Oh, and they had Marines and sailors, too. On August 26, the British sent an ultimatum. Leave the palace by 9 a.m. the next day, or we'll start shooting. Khalid ignored it. Probably figured they were bluffing. They were not. At exactly 9:02 a.m. on August 27th, the British opened fire. They targeted the palace, the artillery, and the royal yacht. Within minutes, the palace was in ruins, the yacht was sinking, and the Sultan's artillery? Silenced. By 9:40 a.m., just 38 minutes after the first shot, the war was over. Khalid? He ran, escaped through a back door, and took refuge in the German consulate. The British weren't thrilled, but they didn't want to start a new war over it, so they let it slide. He was later smuggled out and ended up in German East Africa. As for casualties, about 500 Zanzibaris were killed or wounded. Most of the damage came from the palace, which, being mostly wood, caught fire quickly and burnt fast. The British? 1 sailor got injured. 1. The British then installed a new sultan, Hamoud bin Muhammad, who shockingly was very pro-British. So, what was the point of this whole thing? Control. The British wanted to send a clear message. We're in charge here, whether you like it or not. And to be honest, they did it in under 40 minutes. No long campaigns, no drawn-out negotiations, just one very loud, very fast statement. But let's zoom out for a moment. Why didn't the British just annex Zanzibar completely? Why keep a sultan at all? The answer is cost. Keeping a puppet ruler in place meant less administrative overhead, less responsibility, and fewer headaches. The Sultanate could still exist, on paper, while the British pulled the strings from behind the curtain. It was a budget-friendly empire model. Colonize light. Now here's the strange part. Despite how quick the war was, it involved some planning. The British had actually laid underwater telegraph cables in the harbor, so every action, every command was being reported and timed with precision. This wasn't a bar brawl. It was a clockwork invasion. And that leads to the fun little debate among historians. Was it 38 minutes? Or was it 40? Maybe 45? Some argue the war technically started when the ultimatum was issued. Others say it started when the first shell hit the palace. It's a bit like arguing when a movie really begins, the first scene, or when the title appears. Either way, it ended before most people would finish their breakfast. Khalid, for his part, lived on. After escaping to the German consulate, he was eventually smuggled to Dar es Salaam. He lived under German protection until World War I, when the British finally captured him. They exiled him to the Seychelles and then to Mombasa, where he died in 1927. Back in Zanzibar, the British tightened their grip. The war may have been short, but its message echoed: resistance is futile. In modern times, imagine a global superpower demolishing your government in under an hour, installing a new leader by lunchtime, and then pretending nothing really happened. But here's what makes this little-known event worth remembering. It shows how quickly the wheels of empire could turn, and how easily lives could be swept away in the process. A throne seized, a palace shelled, a regime toppled, all before morning tea. And for those who like trivia, the royal yacht, HHS Glasgow, was the only vessel in the Sultan's navy. It didn't last long. After a few hits from British cruisers, it was at the bottom of the harbor, a symbolic end to a symbolic war. There's also the matter of the Sultan's army. Many were civilians handed weapons, with little training or preparation. They were up against a global military power. It wasn't a battle, it was a message wrapped in gunpowder. And then there's the clock, because the British timed everything. Minute by minute, the coordination between ships, troops, and the consular commands was clinical. It may have been over fast, but it wasn't messy. Even the follow-up was swift. The new Sultan, Hamoud, signed a deal banning slavery, another checkbox for the British public image. Ironically, the end of the shortest war helped accelerate the end of one of humanity's longest-running atrocities. So yes, the Anglo-Zanzibar War holds the title of the shortest war in history, but behind that title is a larger truth about colonialism, power, and what it meant to be caught in the shadow of an empire. It's a funny story, until you realize who paid the price. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing. It helps a ton. And if you've got 38 minutes to spare, maybe look into other shortest things in history. Just maybe not other wars.